Brothers are requested to come closer. Very 2-3 minutes. Inshallah, we can finish in 10 minutes. Because our audience in the masjid is less, so we have to import some audience from online. Alhamdulillah. Basically, I was going through this article around 12 p.m. today, so I thought let's just have it as a discussion, just to revive our memory regarding the fiqh of fasting. So there's quite a few aspects that a person needs to know regarding the rulings of fasting. نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. Allah Ta'ala says, O believers, fasting has been made compulsory upon you as it was made for those before you. In other words, Allah Ta'ala says, أيام معدودات. These are just a few days. So obviously fasting itself is a task on its own. A person who's not used to being hungry, like myself, always munching on something. Fasting sometimes can become, especially in the early days of Ramadan, it can become difficult. So then Allah Ta'ala consoles us. كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِن قَبْلِكُمْ, that it is not only upon you I have put this injunction, rather I have put this injunction on those before you as well. So when the ruling has been made generally it becomes easy. Secondly, Allah Ta'ala says, أَيَّامًا مَعْدُودَاتٍ. These are just a few days. Only a few days of fasting, then Eid will come, you can enjoy yourself, what the baklawas, halwa, jalebi, and all these things. So Allah Ta'ala is consoling us as well as Allah Ta'ala is giving us the injunction. So what is fasting? In the fiqh perspective, the definition of fasting is to refrain from eating, drinking, smoking, and having intercourse from dawn till dusk with the intention of worship. So all your desires, basically. What a nafs desires. The nafs desires that, let me go buy something, have a burger, You're passing by KFC, you can smell the fragrance. I'm not saying KFC is halal. For some it is, for some it's not. That's another matter on its own. So fasting, refrain from eating and drinking, which your nafs desires. Smoking is also can break your fast. And having marital relations or intercourse with your spouse, obviously in a halal way, to refrain from that is the definition of fasting. So anything that your nafs desires, anything that your ego desires, is to restrain from that. The types of fasting. There are several types of fasting according to different rulings. The first one is the farad fast, obviously the month of Ramadan. So from there is fixed farad fast. A fast that is compulsory, but the date and time is fixed for it. For example, the month of Ramadan. Those 29 days or 30 days are fixed. Second one is to vow to fast on a certain day if a wish or desire is fulfilled. For example, oh Allah, if I get my new house, then I will fast on a Thursday, on such and such date. I will fast on the 1st of March, on the 1st of April. Oh Allah, if my son, comes out from hospital, then I will fast, on a Friday on a certain date. So that becomes farad now, if that vow is fulfilled. If a person makes that oath, or by the qasam of Allah, I will fast on such and such date, then he has to fast on the date is farad upon him. If he doesn't fast, then he will be questionable, he will get a sin. Second one is non-fixed farad fast. So it's compulsory, but it's not fixed. You can do it anytime. For example, a person who missed the fast of Ramadan and he has to redo them. For sickness, etc. In Ramadan he could not fast. Out of Ramadan, he will still have to fast. It's compulsory for him to make up for those fasts. But he can do it throughout the year at any time. And the second one is non-fixed fast of a pledge. So you made a pledge that I will fast on so and so day. If something happens, then I will fast. If I get married for the second time, I will keep a fast. So now he he has to keep that fast, but it's not fixed because you haven't fixed yourself a day. So you can fast anytime during the year. These are farad fasts. The second aspect is wajib. Wajib is one below farad. Farad is absolutely compulsory, and wajib is compulsory to an extent. A fast which was broken for whatever reason, is wajib to complete. So, for example, you were fasting out of Ramadan. You started fasting on a Monday, and then all of a sudden you just felt like eating and you broke the fast. This is your nafil fast. Automatically now that nafil fast becomes wajib, because Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, وَلَا تُبْتِلُوا أَعْمَالَكُمْ. Imam Abu Hanifa takes the dalil from this ayah, that do not destroy your good deeds. وَلَا تُبْتِلُوا أَعْمَالَكُمْ. Do not destroy your good deeds. So because you were doing something good and you broke that fast, now it becomes compulsory for you to finish that fast on another day whenever possible. That is wajib. Sunnah fast, all those fasts that the Prophet ﷺ kept and encouraged. Besides Ramadan, every other fast which the Prophet ﷺ had encouraged in ahadith is sunnah fast. For example, the day of Ashura, to fast on the 10th of Muharram, is sunnah. The 6 days of Shawwal, to fast after Ramadan, the 6 days after Eid is sunnah. This is encouraged in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Monday and Thursday, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to fast every Monday and every Thursday. Again, the 13th, 14th, and 15th, which is Ayyam Bid, the full moon, what they say, the bright days or the white days. 13th of every month, the 14th of every month, and the 15th of every month. What is the hikmah behind fasting in these 3 days? It is mentioned that it's got to do also the medical perspective. It's got to do with the gravity of the earth, as well as your bloodstream actually becomes much more faster. If you look at even the oceans, the tides becomes much more higher on these days, 13, 14 and 15, when the full moon is there. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it such that because the liquids around the universe around the world gets much more faster, so your bloodstream also starts working much more energetically. That's why in those days you will feel, extra energetic. Now what happens is, al-shaytanu yajri fil insani majra ad-dam. It comes in a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that shaitan actually flows in your body according to your blood vessels. So shaitan can take control of a person very easily. So that is why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam encouraged the ummah to fast on the 13th, 14th and 15th. There are many other hikmah. This is one perspective that ulama have mentioned. Obviously it is the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Also there is a dietitians will say their own perspective of it. Khair. And then the other sunnah fast is on the day of Arafah, on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah. To fast on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, day of Arafah, is sunnah. So we covered farad fast, Ramadan, and vows. And another farad fast was, what was the other farad fast? Exam time. When you have made a non-fixed vow. And also, the third type of farad fast is when you have broken the fast in the month of Ramadan, you have to fulfill that fast. So your qada fast is farad, your Ramadan is farad, your fixed vow and your non-fixed vow. These are 4 types of farad fast. Then we mentioned wajib. Wajib fast was, who can give me the answer to a wajib fast? For whatever reason you broke a nafil fast, you broke a optional fast. If you broke it, then you have to keep the fast. Again, that is wajib. This is related to i'tikaf as well. If you had made intention for sunnah i'tikaf and you broke that i'tikaf for some reason, now it becomes wajib for you to complete that i'tikaf in the future years. This is sunnah i'tikaf, not nafil. So then the sunnah fast we mentioned, there is a few of them. Makruh, there are some fasts which is undesirable to keep. Number 1 is fast only on the day of Ashura. So obviously it comes in a hadith we should fast for. We will fast for 2 days. The Prophet ﷺ said that next year if we are alive, we will fast for 2 days opposing the Jews. So on the 9th, 10th or 10th, 11th. Inshallah, very quickly we'll finish off. Second, so to fast only on the 10th is makruh, is undesirable. Either you do 9, 10 or 10 and 11. Secondly is to fast only on Sundays. To fast only on Saturdays, sorry. Yawm as-Sabt, because the Jews used to do this. They used to regard Saturday as their holy day. So someone is fasting every Saturday, indirectly you are actually emulating the Jews. To fast only on a Friday. So also this is discouraged because the Prophet used to fast Monday and Thursday. Now this person is only fasting Friday, which means you're giving Friday an additional virtue which is not there in Sharia. So it is makruh. It is not haram, it is undesirable to do so. To fast on the day of doubt, which is the 30th of Shaban, one day before Ramadan. To fast on one day before Ramadan specifically, and every year you're doing the same thing, is actually undesirable and makruh. Now, why is this? Because sometimes what happens is this person is fasting, and then there could be news that, look, you started your fast early morning, but it's already Ramadan. So you made intention of one fast, but the Farad fast had already started. To consecutively fast without breaking the fast. So a person, every day he's fasting. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. Number one, that's one aspect. So you're not giving yourself a gap in between. This is undesirable. The Prophet ﷺ also discouraged the Sahaba to do so. The best fast is Sawm Dawood, fast 1 day, eat 1 day, fast 1 day, eat 1 day, which is very difficult to do. But that is one of the best fasts in terms of your spiritual upbringing. G. Moving on, final one is haram. Which days is haram to fast? Now look, this is the beauty of Sharia. You're going to do what Allah tells you to do when He wants you to do. And when Allah tells you not to do, then you stay away from it. So to fast on the 2 days of Eid. So here Allah Ta'ala wants you to eat. He says, go out, buy your habshi halwa and buy your baklavas, have your jalebi, have your qurbani barbecue steak. Hassan bhai? I know you guys are hungry. Alhamdulillah, we have biryani at the back. So after the majlis, you guys can finish off the pot that we left yesterday. So the 2 days of Eid is haram to fast. You should not be fasting on those days. To fast on the days of Tashriq, 11, 12 and 13, the 3 days after Bakra Eid. The 3 days after Eid al-Adha, it is haram to fast. Those are the days فَإِنَّهَا أَيَّامُ أَكْلٍ وَشُرْبٍ وَبِعَالٍ. It comes in a hadith of Rasulullah. These are days of eating, drinking and merrymaking. Requirements of fasting. Upon whom fasting is permissible. I think we'll have to carry on next week again, this is taking too long. Upon whom fasting is permissible. Number one, a person must be Muslim. What fasting is compulsory? A person must be Muslim. He must reach the age of puberty, he must be baligh, and he must be sane. So a person obviously is insane, he's not in control of his own sanity. Then upon him, there is no the laws of Sharia does not imply. And number four, he should have the knowledge that fasting is necessary if he's a new Muslim. So if he's living in a non-Muslim country, he just accepted Islam and he doesn't have the knowledge that fasting is compulsory and the whole month of Ramadan went by, then upon him fasting was not implied anyway. Yes, when he receives the knowledge that in Ramadan you have to fast, now fasting becomes compulsory for him. So for Muslim, baligh, aqil, he must be sane, and he should have, if he's a revert Muslim, at least he should receive the information that fasting has become compulsory for him. Requirements for validating the fast. Number one, refrain from eating, drinking, smoking and intercourse, which we mentioned, that your fast will be valid from dawn to dusk. From Subh al-Sadiq right up till sunset, to stay away from eating, drinking and relationships, then your fast will be valid. Number two, to have the intention of fasting. We have to make an intention. So for example, a person went to sleep on the 30th of Shaban. He didn't know that the next day is going to be Ramadan. Or he went to sleep on the 29th of Shaban. He didn't know that the next day is going to be Ramadan. And then he wakes up 9, 10 in the morning without suhoor. Obviously, he didn't have the intention of fasting. So will his fast be valid or not? So ulama say you should stay hungry all day, because that's your penalty for not knowing. And at the same time, you still have to make up the fast after Ramadan. A qada fast. So intention of fasting is very important. You don't have to say it verbally, but you should have it in your mind that tomorrow I will be fasting, or this meal that I am having is for suhoor, is for fasting, etc. To be free from any kind of religious impediment, such as in the case of a woman being free from menses and postnatal bleeding, etc. Then your fasting will be valid. So obviously women who are in menses, they don't have to fast in Ramadan. That's why throughout the year then they struggle, they're looking for the winter days, to finish up fast. So for them, if you are in that state, then the fasting is not valid anyway. Right, exceptions from fasting. For who fasting is not, it doesn't imply to them. Number one, an insane person and غير عاقل, someone who cannot think for themselves. Children who have not yet been, not a drunk person. Someone drinks and be like, well, I was insane anyway, so I don't have to fast. No. It means that a disability. Children who have not become adults, who have not reached the age of puberty. These days, children, mashallah, they reach the age of puberty quite early. 11, 12, 13, they're already aqil baligh. So the fasting will start. A traveler, a musafir. So this is a very important one. Now, how much distance you're going to travel to become a musafir? Generally is 48 miles. Some say it's 35, but 48 miles is the right amount. But now, say for example, someone travels to London and back and be like, I was musafir, so I can eat. So ulama say that is discouraged, because then you are actually creating a loophole for yourself, and you're going against the commandment of Allah. The wrath of Allah can come upon you by doing so. If you're genuinely traveling, you're going, to another country, and it's difficult at the airport or the heat of the country, etc., then you can break your fast, no problem. But just to travel to break your fast, this is wrong. This is like the Jews, what they used to do. They were not allowed to fish on a Saturday. They were not allowed to go for fishing. It comes in the Quran. And what they used to do, so they used to make ponds. And it used to happen, so Allah used to test them. So the fish used to come to the shore on a Saturday, and the rest of the week the fish used to go back into the sea again. So what they done is we'll make little ponds on Saturday. So when all the fish comes, we'll trap them in the pond, and Monday we'll go catch them out. Or Sunday we'll catch them out. So Allah Ta'ala says, no. This, you are now actually playing with the commandments of Allah Ta'ala. So a lot of people actually do this, especially in the heated or hot countries. What they would do is they'll travel 48 miles and they'll eat and they'll come back and be like, well, we were musafir, so it's permissible for me. Then what is the point of you being a Muslim? What is the point of you trying to fulfill the commandments of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala if you're going to be looking for loopholes like this? Right. A sick person, a person who's become really sick, and fasting will be detrimental for him. The doctors have advised you're not supposed to be fasting. Then fasting is not compulsory for him. A pregnant woman or a suckling mother who fears for the child in her womb or the suckling baby. So a woman who's pregnant, and if she fasts, is going to affect the child. The doctors have given advice that she should not fast. Then it's better for her not to fast. A woman, obviously she has to make up the fast out of Ramadan. Tell me when to stop, Hassan bhai, if it's getting too boring. Inshallah. A woman who is in her monthly cycle and post-childbirth confinement, then for them they shouldn't be fasting anyway. The elderly and chronically ill, people who have been ill terminally, they don't have to fast. And obviously doctors will advise that they shouldn't be fasting. For them they should give fidya, because there's no hope for them to start fasting again. So if there's no hope for them, they should give the fidya with the intention that if Allah makes me better, I will still fast again. But for now, I will give the fidya. Right? In this case, they have to give compensation of each day missed. What is the fidya? But with the intention that if they ever to become healthy again, then they will keep a qadha fast. So which is generally 1.1 kg of barley. Whatever is the market price of that 1.1 kg of barley, that is your fidya. These days it's £2.80 to be accurate. We got 350 on there, that's last year's price. So just to be safe, we put 350 on the masjid timetable, but the real price is £2.80. Right, if he is poor, then he should ask Allah Ta'ala for forgiveness for not being able to fast. He can't even afford that £2.80 to give to the poor. then he should ask Allah Ta'ala to forgive him that I am very ill, I am chronically ill, and I can't even afford this much. Allah Ta'ala, forgive me for not fasting. The fidya is equivalent of what is given in Sadaqatul Fitr, we mentioned that. So, fidya and Sadaqatul Fitr is exactly the same, 1.1 kg of barley, which is today is £2.80. In the case that someone dies because of illness and did not give fidya, then it is not wajib for his heirs to pay fidya on his behalf. Remember, there's a lot of people ask this question. For example, if my father has passed away and I know he didn't fast for this many days, should I give fidya on his behalf or not? It's better to. It's better to give fidya on his behalf, but it's not compulsory upon the family members. So obviously now all the wealth belongs to them. It is up to them what they want to do with it. Right? If he becomes well, then it is necessary to write a will. That if he dies without writing a will, then it is not binding for the offspring to give a fidya on his behalf. So you can write a will, for example, saying that all these Ramazans I couldn't fast. If I pass away and I'm not well, please give so much fidya on my behalf. Because then obviously from 1/3 or 1/8, 1/3, they can actually give that out anyway. However, if he has written a will, then it is necessary for the inheritors to pay fidya from 1/3 of the deceased wealth. So if he's left £100, then £33 should be utilized for his fidya. It is not permissible to pray or keep fast on someone else's behalf. Very important. Brother, you know what, I'll pay you. Just fast for me also. It doesn't work because obviously everyone has to do their own fasting in Ramadan. Or you pay someone like, oh, fasting is not compulsory for you, you're a traveler, just fast for me. So that doesn't work in Sharia. It's your deeds, وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى. You will not carry the burden of the next person, and in the same way, you will be questioned for your deeds. You can't ask someone else to perform salah for you. You can't ask, yes, you can ask them to do dua for you, you can ask them to do good deeds on your behalf, but those deeds will not suffice your farad. You will still be questioned for your salah. You will still be questioned that why didn't you lead your fajr, zuhr, asr. And then food can be given on behalf of the deceased. Then obviously we mentioned that food can be given on behalf of the deceased, meaning fidya. You can feed people on behalf of the deceased to compensate for their fasting. Inshallah, we'll leave it till here. Next week, if we have time, we will carry on. Things which invalidate the fast. What things will break your fast? Qada and kafara. What is qada? What is kafara? Wajib kafara. And thereafter, places where only qada is obligatory and not the kafara. In which situations you only make up for the fast. You don't have to pay the extra penalty, or you don't have to do the 60 fast. Which situations are those? And then obviously, moving on to the other aspects of women's cycle, etc., and things which do not invalidate the fast. Let's go through this one, it's very important. Things do not invalidate the fast, very quickly. So things that doesn't break the fast is to eat, drink, smoke, or have intercourse unintentionally. So someone done everything unintentionally, then he realized, hey, I was fasting. So you opened the fridge, mashallah, you took out the pizza, you warmed it, you ate everything, and then afterwards someone told you, hey, you were fasting. So Allah Ta'ala has fed you. Right? Injections. So if you're taking injections for medical reasons, etc., your fast doesn't break. Some ulama say if it's directly in the stomach, then your fast will break. But generally, normal injections, your fast doesn't break. To be in the state of impurity after dawn. So you woke up and you needed a shower and it's already past any time. So your fast will still count. Your fast will still count. To brush your teeth, you can brush your teeth using a miswak or even a toothbrush. Your fast will not. It is makruh to use toothpaste. So toothpaste, ulama says makruh, but miswak and just plain toothbrush is fine. Right, smoke or dust getting into one's mouth unintentionally. So for example, you're driving and there's a dusty road or there's a truck in front of you and all the smoke is coming into your mouth. If it's unintentional, it's your fast. If it's intentional, for example, all these vapes and agarbatti and all that, then ulama says your fast will be questionable. Right? Playing with one's spouse, funneling, etc., and all that, if there's no discharge, then your fasting does not break. Don't try it. After Fajr, a lot of brothers message, Mulana, this happened, what shall I do? So best is just stay away. Only 30 days. Riyam Madudat. And you got the whole evening anyway. Right? And then ejaculation due to looking at something and due to entertaining thoughts. So this will actually, if it happens without exercising or without touching your private part, then the fast is not broken. But if someone had actually made an effort, to get into the mode of ejaculation, then obviously the fast will break, which we will discuss further on, inshallah. So these were very important aspects. Inshallah, next week we will carry on with the other aspects, things that actually breaks your fast. What aspects break your fast, and then after we'll touch on to other aspects of Ramadan. Speak, inshallah. Any questions?
If your father's still alive, can you give fidya on their behalf, or does it have to be him that gives it?
You can give on their behalf, as long as he knows.
Or you have to tell him?
Yeah, if you let him know that, don't worry, I'm giving the fidya on your behalf.
If he knows that every year I do it anyway, is that council's intention?
That's fine. So then at least his intention is done for the fidya.
Sorry, one thing. You mentioned for the insane, it's not obligated to fast. But I'm a psychiatrist, and that kind of, nobody is insane constantly, it fluctuates a lot.
Yes.
So do you mean in those periods when somebody is unwell, then he shouldn't fast? Because there are prolonged periods where people are stable.
Yeah.
So
Now, so what happens is when a person, when we say insane, means he's ghair aqil. He doesn't have the ability to think for himself throughout. So for example, a person is born disabled.
yeah.
And as he's grown older, for the number of years, for example, 20, 30 years, he doesn't have power over his own decisions. So then Sharia laws doesn't apply to him. Yes, later on, if he through medical treatment, etc., he does become better, then the laws will start applying to him.
Understood. Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Anything else?
Is that thing, those people who are psychotic and they are on medication, they won't need to fast, because by them not taking the medication, they can have a conversation.
Yeah, so for medical reasons, then they don't have to fast.
Right.
So there are some individuals who are physically able to fast. They can eat and drink and nothing will happen to them. Sorry, they can abstain from eating and drink and nothing will happen to them, absolutely. They do it fine. They could go on like that for 2-3 days. You are psychiatrist, but they could go on like that for 2-3 days. But if they don't take the medication, then the effects will not present itself that day or those 2-3 days. It presents itself later on.
Yeah.
And if they regress so much and relapse so much that ultimately it's harmful for themselves, harmful for others because it's psychotic, then in that case, if the Muslim doctor advises them that they have to be under medication, despite them being able to fast without going through any difficulty, then that Muslim doctor will have a conversation.
Yeah. So medical reasons is totally acceptable, as long as like Sheikh said, Muslim doctor, what you call gives permissible.
The reason I asked is because I just dealt with this literally about a week ago. One thing, this occupational therapist called me about this. So I spoke to one of my friends. He's Mullah, that he works in that field. And Islam it's a bit of not a grey area, but it can be misunderstood. There are some people that can physically fast because generally what's understood because of fasting and fiqh is that if you're on a medication that you can still fast without taking that medication and nothing happens to you, then you should be fasting. But here you're in a situation where you fast, nothing's going to happen to you now, or at least tomorrow. I understand if you come and catch yourself.
Yeah.
Later on, yeah. Ji, any more questions?
Jazakallah, we don't need.
No worries. Any more questions? Subhanallah bihamdi, subhanakallah wa bihamdi. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.
Okay.